We start with Stacy from Hot Springs, and Stacy writes, I grew up watching my parents make bad choices with their money. I'm 42 now, and I've built some pretty good financial habits because of what I experienced as a kid. But now my parents are nearing retirement and seem to be struggling. I don't want to tank my own financial future, but I don't want to see them suffer. What should I do? Boy, very good question and a difficult one to address, Stacy, without all of the information. You know, I circled the word suffer in that, and I think we have to walk through what does that actually mean when it comes to struggling. But we're going to start with kind of what may seem like a little bit of a harsh take on this, but you've probably heard it before about the analogy of the oxygen mask on the airplane, right? When they give you when the flight attendant gives you these safety instructions before your flight is about to take off, what do they talk about with those oxygen masks? If you're traveling with a small child, they say make sure to secure your own oxygen mask before trying to help others with theirs. And that's a good analogy to bring into the financial planning side. Now, I know that's really kind of difficult to think about with Stacy saying my parents may struggle trying to get into retirement, and I don't want to see them suffer. And that's a great compassionate take, but you want to be able to help. We're not saying don't help.
Yeah.
Just don't do it at the expense of what you've built personally for your financial future. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
You know, the reason that they tell you that on the airplane is that if you go long enough without the proper flow of oxygen, then you start thinking you get goofy. It's funny. I've seen a few videos where they've done that intentionally to just see what happens, and it's almost like the impact from being drunk. People just get silly, and so then if you haven't taken care of yourself, then you can't in turn and put the mask on the child. So to save both of their lives, the adult has to go first. In this situation, financially, I think it is very true. We're not saying don't help your parents. We are saying you can't help your parents to the point that it harms you, because then neither one of you gets through this, financially stable at all. And so we would ask you a few questions and maybe ask you to ask yourself these questions. I think it's important for you to have an understanding of what your financial future looks like. And if there is an abundance, you have more flexibility. If there's not, and I would lean more towards this because you have said, I don't want to tank my own financial future, but I don't want to see them suffer. So I'm thinking there's not like this excess. You're probably on a reasonably good track, but not a lot of excess, which means you're really going to have to find balance and find creative ways to help them. I understand not wanting them to suffer, but you can't give up your own financial stability. I'm going to throw something out that honestly we would have done with some of I'll say the grandparents. So like my parents and my husband's parents. Some of the grandparents, we would have been fine with this, and some of them we would not. But I would ask, would it be okay? Would it be appropriate with your family dynamics, maybe for them even at some point to live in your home? For some people, that would destroy your family. If that's the case, don't do it. But for others, it would work very well. And then you're not paying for their rent or their house payment, but they're not having to pay that either. So maybe your utilities go up a little bit, but you guys are saving a significant amount of outflow on house payments. Again, it's all about family dynamics first and the finances secondly in that scenario, but there's some opportunities there for you to consider.
Yeah, so when it comes to defining what suffering is there, if they're struggling nearing retirement, there's the housing issue. I think the root cause, determining what the root cause for your parents to struggle is really important here. What's causing them to struggle? Is it they don't have enough retirement income? Or is it that they have too many expenses that maybe they could look at reducing? Do they have some debt they need to be able to wipe out? And if they are nearing retirement, you're telling us that they're not retired yet, right? So maybe they need to work with an advisor to build a plan, and maybe they need to work a little longer, right? Let's say they're 62 and they're planning to retire at 65, but what kind of difference could it make if they went ahead and worked till 70? We don't know their health or anything like that as well, but a lot of times people who are nearing retirement and they think they're going to struggle, a lot of times, Janet, it turns out that they may not be struggling as much as they think they will be once they build a plan.
Yeah, Scott, we've seen that many, many times. We had an advisor who years ago, he was talking to us about his dad's financial situation, and the advisor was pretty young in the industry at that point, and his dad was diagnosed with cancer and wound up passing away before too terribly long. And as the young advisor got farther into the industry, he realized, he said, guys, my dad could have retired and he didn't know it. He kept working and he kept pushing and going and going and going because he came from nothing, and he still defined himself as having nothing, but he had put into this 401k all these years, and he had resources that would have allowed him to retire, but he just kept going. And so that question of, what could those final years have been like if he had known? And so I think it's important for you to take the time individually, Stacy, and for your parents as well, to take the time and really evaluate where you are financially, and maybe get some coaching to work through that, to meet with a financial advisor and go, where am I and what is the path forward, again, for really both generations.